This is a short video on finding volume of rectangular prisms and cubes. So first of all, when you're looking at a volume problem, you're always going to have a three-dimensional shape. So it's going to look like a shoebox or a Rubik's Cube, but you're always going to have a 3D shape in volume questions. Sometimes they're going to have pictures, and sometimes they're just going to describe it. So there's a formula for volume, and my superhero, Volume Man, he's the big guy. He is super boxy, and you have to remember when you're doing volume questions, your answers are probably going to be pretty big by the time you get done with most problems. So when you're doing volume, your formula is going to be length times width times height. Length times width times height. So if I'm giving a rectangular prism like this, and it is 4 inches by 5 inches by 3 inches. You're going to take the length, width, and height and multiply them together. So volume would be 4 times 5 times 3. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 times 3 is 60. And your answers are going to be in cubic units. So you're going to have this little baby 3 up here at the top. So when you're doing volume, you're doing cubic units. And you're looking at how many square inches or cubic inches will fit inside this box. Some things you need to watch out for. Sometimes it will show you a volume formula like this. The big B is the base. The base is the top or bottom of your rectangular prism or cube. So when you're talking about the base, it's always the bottom. Sometimes it'll have these little dots in here so you can visualize it. This is the base. The bottom of the box is the base. And then the height is just how tall it is, okay? So be really careful in these because if it asks for the base, you're just going to do 4 times 5, which is 20, and then 20 times 3. It's exactly the same as length times width times height. It's just a shorter formula. Actually, I like this better if I'm having to write out a formula. Also, sometimes they'll have actual pictures of tiny cubes representing the units. On those, sometimes it'll talk about there being layers. If it's layers that it's talking about, those layers are how many stacks of cubes that are on top of each other. So if you find the base here is, let's say this is 5 and this is 6 centimeters. The area of the base is going to be 30 because 6 times 5 is 30. If it says each layer is 1 centimeter tall, then all 3 layers will be a total of 3 centimeters. And you're going to be multiplying 30 times 3. So 5 times 6 times 3, 30 times 3 would be 90 centimeters, and you do these little exponent 3 for cubic centimeters. So make sure you're watching out for these terms. The base is the bottom. Layers are the stacks, and I always think layers are like Legos, and they're going to usually show you tiny, tiny pieces. So we're finding volume, we're finding up how much we can fill up the entire space. If this was a fish tank and I wanted to find the volume of the fish tank, I would see how much water I could fit inside that fish tank. And by doing that, you find cubic units. Some of these problems are just going to have a box. Sometimes you're going to have a box on a box. So, for example, it'll say there's a building and the first 3 stories are these dimensions, and then the top part is a different dimension. You're just going to have to add them on top. So you're going to do the volume of the big box, the volume of the little box, and then you're going to add it all together. So on this one, the little box volume would be 6 times 10 times 12. And then the other one would be 10 times 20 times 20.